It all went down on the day I graduated from Faerie High School. They asked my name. X, Dark Princess. Mari, X, I responded. They handed me my certificate for the protection of magical creatures, and I was on my way. I'd graduated, top of my class, at age 12, skipped a few grades. They said I was the smartest Dark Princess they'd ever taught. All the boys wanted to be with me, but I thought that they were too dumb. They couldn't handle my mastery of all of the arcane magics. When I set out to be on my own, my grandfather gave me a deck of cards, saying, "These cards will protect you." Little did he realize how right he was. My life depended on those cards, day in and day out. And now I'm going to tell you how it really went down. Straight from the beginning.
For thousands of years, Avalon has been known as a land of harmonious balance. Light and dark in stable union, allowing for peace and prosperity. This was my home, and I knew this balance well. It had been the background to my upbringing. It had been my youth. There are always signs when the fulcrum of this balance is shifting. In my dreams that night, I felt a great movement in a terrifying direction. That night, in my dream, I heard a tiny voice calling out in pain. From the forest near my home, I could sense the creature's torment.
As I went out that night, I saw a whole cable of monsters had been released. Perhaps there was some evil in this forest. There were rabbits, lizards, revenants, jack-o'-lanterns, and elf kings. I had my deck of cards with me, though, and I was able to use the Divine Circle's powers to take care of them all. I quickly dispatched the jack-o'-lanterns, no problem, and I had racked up a streak 6 bodies deep. I now had an option. Do I take out the 10, or do I go for the queen and get a combo? I went for the obvious choice. I used the natural presence of 2 kings and an ace to go for the fairy backslap maneuver. They didn't see it coming. With the 4 given to me, another obvious combination became readily apparent. I didn't realize at the time, but I could have gone for a slightly more efficient combination. I used the jack to clean up the work that should have been obvious to me. Yeah, even pretty brilliant geniuses such as myself can sometimes make these mistakes. But at the end of the day, it was still a perfect hand. Again, I was dealt a card I couldn't do any good with, but the 8 turned all that around. Cards started appearing that made it very easy to pull off a double fairy backslap combo. But now, I saw there were only 2 rabbits. 3 rabbits now. And you know what they say, an army of rabbits is just as deadly as an army of elf kings. Suddenly a 3 appeared. I'd be able to use this to cut down their numbers, maybe. And just like that, another rabbit was hiding. I scrambled through my deck looking for anything I could use against them, but I accidentally drew too fast. So I went back in time. They say time travel is extremely disorienting. Well, you don't know until you've lived it, sister. After I regained sense of who I was, I happened upon a 3. I used it to take out one of the rabbits, and then another 3. I used the natural enemy of the rabbits, the kitties, to go ahead and clean up their act. With the ace, I could take out one last rabbit, or the king. I decided to go with the elf king because I assumed that there would be more aces, and lo and behold, they were hiding. Now I just needed a king or a rabbit, neither of which came up. I was so foolish. I had been taken out by rabbits. Top of my class, I was worth nothing. But before I could feel too sorry for myself, a whole nother troop of monsters descended upon my position. This Fey dream was quickly turning into a Fey nightmare. And if that wasn't bad enough, this battlefield was deeper in the forest, so much that we were surrounded by roses. Roses, as you know, although very pretty, are full of thorns, and therefore you must cut them off at the root, so as to not get pricked. I could sense that there were more monsters hiding in the shrubbery, though, and I was the only one nearby who could do anything about it. So you better believe it when I said that I was going to go straight up to that rose bush, cut it all down, and take care of those monsters. I was in a real jam, though. I was in a great position for some fairy backslappings. I didn't have any kings, queens, or jacks with which to fight. I should have used that rabbit in retrospect, but there ain't nothing I can do about it now. I began to clear through the bushes, and believe me, I was not surprised to see an elf king in there. They're known for their devious, underhanded tactics. And while I wasn't quite able to pull off the fairy backslap combination I was hoping for, this would have to do. And with that, I had gathered up enough energy to where any further monsters I defeated would simply just give me dollar bills instead. I tore through the remaining monsters, hoping for something with which to take out the frog queen, but there was nothing. My only consolation was the knowledge that I had dispatched them all so quickly that I would come to be known as Speedster. It was the first of many titles I would acquire along my journeys, but I always had a fondness for that one. This time they approached me in a half-diamond formation. They thought that by hiding every other row of monsters, they would be able to throw me off of being able to launch sweet, sick, awesome combos. Little did they realize that I was able to see right through their ruse and get the sickest of combos on them repeatedly. Back-to-back, 2 5+ combos. I slowed down, exhausted. The bloodlust had become overwhelming for me. But with this rabbit, I suddenly switched from being the barbarian to the tactician. Should I take out this robot, or should I go for another rabbit? The robot was, I think, the superior choice. But then the deck's magic started to wane. It was giving me nothing but fat lizards and fatter chickens. Until I got this little dragon baby. I decided to make the chef's last meal, and behind him was some magic poop. This would be very useful. I put it in my pocket. As we all know, animals love to eat magic poop, and then they turn into stronger animals. With only 2 monsters left, I was very, very close to yet another perfect victory. I would be lying if I said I wasn't at least a little bit worried, being down to just 1 card remaining, but somehow I knew I would pull through. They approached me again, this time in a traditional fat lizard formation. They were hoping to utilize the advantages provided them by the rose bushes. Luckily, I was able to see through their formation, pinpoint all their weak points, and formulate a very, very cunning strategy. First I needed to take out that 9 with a fairy backslap maneuver. Then I would move through all the way to a 6, pulling off an amazing octuple fairy uppercut. That look says it all. You don't believe that I could achieve an octuple fairy uppercut, do you? Well, believe me, if you had seen it. Well, let's just say that the roses weren't the only thing that went red that day. I began to search through my deck looking for any viable candidate with which I could start to thin out their numbers a little bit, but nobody seemed up to the task. I just kept picking them off one by one, hoping that eventually I'd break through and get some sort of combo. With the thorns cleared, things started to look up. I was able to pull off a dashing maneuver, cutting from the left right through the thorns. And you know what they call that maneuver now? The Dark Princess Statue of Liberty double dash maneuver, a tactic still used today by the Forest Rangers of Avalon. With another perfect conquest achieved, I was filled with only one thought. Thank you all for watching and sticking with me for 100 episodes. I can't believe I've already reached this point, but I'm very, very grateful to everyone who watches and everyone who comments. And you all are awesome. You're great fans. And I hope to make at least 100 more. Thank you.